it seems like, and it really feels like to me, that there seems to be something out here that's after my good, trying to steal my good from me. And the more conscious I get, and I really would like to think that I'm getting more conscious, I can see now that every opportunity, every moment, every thought, every experience that I'm having, I really need to be holding to truth. And so that's the topic of discussion tonight, holding truth. So last week, I had one of those amazing bank moments. You know, I think we've all had bank moments. And so I go to use my bank card, and that crazy thing shows up, and it says, "I'm sorry, but that card is closed." I'm like, what the? That can't be. So I try to hold this air of ministry about me, right? And I go to the bank, and I'm demonstrating calmness. That's what I'm demonstrating, though it doesn't appear to be that way to anybody else in the bank. But they haven't really seen me upset. They've just seen the jovial minister that comes in and is really polite to people. So if you've ever had the bank do something heinous with your account, like, and it doesn't really matter how much money it was, it's the fact that it's our money, right? And so what I recognized is that I went absolutely insane in my mind. I started developing all these strategies and all these stories in my head, because what I realized is anytime I've ever had a bad experience at the bank, it's always at the least desirable moment, when I can least afford to have somebody tangle with my money. So maybe you've had your account closed, or you've had the bank do something that they weren't supposed to do, or maybe even the back legal office decides to do some kind of administrative architecture with my money. So I go into the bank, and I'm sitting there, and I'm having this ongoing monologue in my head. You can imagine what that must sound like, being irreverent as I can be. But yet at the same time, I was absolutely sure that my private client banker was going to make everything right for me, right? And yet I know as a minister, right, and as a student of the science of mind, that if we hold any thoughts of failure, any ideas that could cause us any sense of pain or discord, or to feel any kind of depression at all in any way, those are not the kind of thoughts we want to be thinking. You know, nothing good can come from that. I'm absolutely certain of that. I mean, come on, we want to be replacing those thoughts with thoughts of accomplishment, with thoughts of success, with thoughts of achievement. I mean, it's really simple. It's the bumper sticker. Think good thoughts. Just because you have a ministerial license doesn't mean you think good thoughts. So all this is going on in my head, and the bank has absolutely no idea of the stories that I've created in my head of what is happening with this money, or what could happen with this money. And I have to tell you, it was a sizable amount, more than the FDIC can insure in a bank. And so I was a little distraught and a little disturbed. And so this ongoing monologue that I'm having in my head is not making anything go better. And so I'm sitting there in the chair, and I'm capable of watching all of this go on. I'm like an outside observer, and yet I'm in the story too. And I'm watching these thoughts in my head, and I start busting up laughing, because I look around and there's a bunch of people there. And I'm wondering how many of those mind-reading psychics are there to pick up, like to start a checking account, and how much entertainment they're getting out of what's going on in my mind. Because in the science of mind, it says when we think about conditions or conditionality, we say that we tend to give the life of our thought to those conditions, and that's how those conditions get perpetuated and magnified. Psychologically, I know this stuff. I sit there and I watch all of this happening. And mind you, I haven't even heard the bank's position on it yet. But I am a raving maniac in my head. And I've got the bank manager telling me, calm down. I said, I am calm. Would you like to see me demonstrate upset? I can't deal with a one-sided conversation very well, and that's what was happening. So the week wasn't done yet, because what happened was this occurred after I went to the dentist to get a stupid little thing fixed at the top of one of my molars, only to discover that my jaw had moved over some time and my teeth are out of alignment and my jaw's not sitting on the lubricating pad, blah, blah, blah. So I had this major oral surgery too. Then they grind all the teeth in the front, and I've got these composite teeth and all this tooth pain. So I've got the bank dealing with my money heinously. I've got all this tooth pain, and you think that's a big deal in life? Your little issues are a big deal? Those were not the big deal. The big deal for me was I had a medicine cabinet full of Vicodin. A person with double digits of addiction, working with addiction people, right? Dealing with my own addiction issues. So what did I do? I knew what the prescription said, so I stayed with constant pain because I don't generally live with superstitious states of behavior. But it's totally superstitious, Ernest Holmes would say, for me not to take the Vicodin and to think that it was going to take me out. That's superstitious living. But for me, I know the limits of my clean time. I know the limits of my sobriety. I know the limits of my addiction. So I suffered with the pain. Pretty stupid. And very painful. I was in that chair for 6.5 hours, right? So for me, what I have to look at is I have to stop to realize how subtle our thoughts of negation are. That we can think these thoughts without even recognizing that we're having negative thinking and we're exercising negative behavior, and we think we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. And what that really is a spiritual deficiency on my part where I have not practiced in one area of my life. This whole idea of conditions and conditionality and the fact that our thoughts perpetuate those and magnify those, I just want to tell you how Dr. Mark talks about this. He says, we're circling the drain. I went in it. I was down in the trap somewhere with all that sewage scum for a while, right? But the principle works either way. It doesn't care whether we're a success or whether we're a failure. We're the ones that have to care. And not only care, we have to be willing to take active steps to make changes in our life, to do something different, to be in alignment with the revelation that we've received from the divine. And I get angry. I've noticed that lately. It's like there's something weird going on inside of me. But then I try to remember, and this isn't to pass off any blame or to shirk off any of the responsibility. This is simply to become aware of where I need to pay attention in my spiritual practice. But there's an expression going on in the world out there, a race expression, of pent-up expression, right? Of years of suppressed resentments, years and years of disappointments for people, years and years of deceptions and civil injustices, and the world is showing us this very frankly today. And I'm experiencing this in my life. And this is what we call in the science of mind the thinking of the world around us. And Ernest tells us that we have to be really mindful of how much of that we partake in. And if we do, are we spending that much extra time in our chair doing the spiritual practice around those events and circumstances that are pulling at our attention in the world? See, holding to truth is about dislodging all doubt, all fear, and letting go of unbelief and trusting implicitly in good. Good and good alone. Like Dr. Mark said on Sunday, a good that can have no opposite. We can't move towards our success when we're holding on to lack or when we haven't even given ourselves permission to be successful. See, we talk a good game, but does our life mirror what we say? See, the laws of mind and spirit must be understood if we wish to consciously use them for specific purposes. And why would we use it for anything else, right? We want to be specific with what we're doing. And you and I really only need to remember one thing and one thing throughout everything. God is the source of all good. That's it. So holding on to truth is simply living from that place of complete conviction, God in all and through all. No matter what we experience, God. No matter what we tell ourselves, God. No matter what we think and feel about other people or events in the world, God. 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 It's all God. Isn't that what we say here? Say that. It's all God. Boy, you don't believe that. Try that again. Be angry with it. It's all God.
It's all God.
Absolutely. For me, I have to keep coming back to this. We not only have to be absolute in our faith, but our faith must be set in the absolute, where our positive conviction of our own inner power, that Christ within, is the only presence and the only principle which enables us to actually achieve the work that we set out to do. People see my life and they suppose that I've worked really, really hard to get this successful. And I tell myself, I really have. But then I remember the words of Confucius, who says that a man has never worked a second in his life when he's doing what he loves. And we all are always doing what we love, no matter how you slice it. We're all doing what we love and what makes us feel good. If we're not, what is that saying about us? Life responds to us in the way that we approach it. So let me give you something to play with this week. If you have a pencil or a pen, you might want to write this down. Number one, choose what you wish to embody. Choose what you wish to embody. Number two, give all your attention to that, right? Constant attention to what you choose to embody. And three, take on all of its characteristics. Take on all of its characteristics. There. I just gave you the mental science magic formula. Everyone wants a pill that they can take to fix themselves or something in their life. And I just gave you the metaphysical pill of success. And if you don't swallow it and you don't take it and you don't adhere to it and you don't use it, that's your issue. So when we think, and this is what I've noticed, certainly has happened to me, when we think that we've finally gotten into that bracket where our career or what we do for income has finally gotten to be a sufficient amount for us, what do we discover? We're still unhappy, unfulfilled. And the normal thing that most of us do, and I know I certainly have thought this too, is if I just work harder, if I just give myself over to this. But success and happiness are ours when we deal with absolutes. Our careers and money, our family and our stuff, these aren't absolutes. When we deal only with the absolutes, that's the attitude we should have. What we need to know is the truth. Because it's the truth that'll set us free. Our thought must be organized to fit our goals, our desires, and our dreams. And this is the premise that we must build our faith on. Because that faith that we build is vital, and that vitality breeds success. So success must precede all of the work that we do in thought. In thought. And you know what I find to be the hardest part? Is that I've had the realization and I've received the revelation and I know the outcomes whether I stay in alignment with this greater plan with my life or for my life, or I choose to fall off the wagon and go crashing down the steepest hill. And don't anybody affirm that for me. Negate, negate, negate. But this is the hardest part. This is the hardest part for me, is remembering to enjoy life. I do all this study, I do all this spiritual practice, I do all this service stuff, but I forget to enjoy life. Relaxation and entertainment. These are essential ingredients to a fulfilled life. And we can't just settle to practice on ourselves and say that our entertainment is watching how hard we hold on to things, that's entertaining to us when we finally see that we know how to release them, but the things that we're holding on to are not things of truth. So the crazy thing about life, or what I call life, walking around in this mass of flesh, this bag of blood and bones, conscious to some degree, and happy with parts of ourselves, and completely dissatisfied with everything else, always, always keeping our heads in the sand like ostriches, because we're in denial that every action and all of our thoughts, always relate to one simple plan of strategy that we have, and that plan is just like the earth, or the sun that the earth revolves around. Our whole life, all of our thoughts and our belief rely and revolve around this one simple, stupid little plan that we have. And most of us are so heavily invested in this plan, but we don't know what its true name is. And I bet you're dying to know what it is, right? It's your immortality plan. But that's not this talk. We call all this forward through our beliefs. We had the realization. And now if we can't enjoy life, we need to get back on track to the revelation and recall those perfect set of instructions. I mean, have you actually ever seen somebody really successful walking around affirming that they're a failure? No. Successful people are filled with enthusiasm, and they have an air of confidence and strength. And to some of us, those people are stuffy. But the truth is, we'd like to believe that we're doing all the right things too, and we should be just as successful as them, but our lives don't even resemble half of the good that theirs do. And then we think they're schmucks or something, right? But it's not them. It's us. It's you and me. Well, no, I can't speak for you. It's me. I'm the schmuck when I think somebody's successful, has my good, right? So our expectations, see, if we're not experiencing the good that we know we should be experiencing, right, then we have to go inside. We have to turn our attention inward, Ernest says, and search for any place within us which would deny us that good. See, our expectations block us from the fullness of the expression of good in our lives, and we want to be holding to truth, not holding to our expectations. See, Ernest Holmes says in the textbook, God is spirit, right? And spirit is substance, and substance is supply. And this is the keynote to a realization of the more abundant life, to the demonstration of success in financial matters. And it's right that we should be successful, for otherwise spirit is not being expressed. And he goes on to say that the divine cannot lack for anything, and we should not lack for anything that makes life worthwhile while here on earth. Amen. And so what I think our problem is we think we're the ones that's supposed to be making all this happen. We're not. We build the energy field for things to come into being. We create the zone for good to land in. We think the thoughts that develop into objective forms, and we're the arbiters of this thing that we call life, and we're the ones responsible to hold to truth and not let ourselves wander into the valley of the shadow of death. And if we do, we're the ones responsible to lift ourselves up and out. It's nobody else's responsibility but ours. And for me, the only way that can happen is in the two or more. Living a life of intuition is really about me working with my practitioner, working with my mentor, and working with Spirit simultaneously. Because intelligence passes by successive degrees of incarnation through evolution into the human mind. That's what Ernest says in the textbook. So from our mentors or our practitioners, the successive degree of consciousness is passed from one to another. So if you're blocked in some area of your life, work with the practitioner and get unblocked. It really comes down to realizing that our being is fully orbed in potential and possibility, and then living from there. See, we're the most powerful agents in our own healing. We're the soul energy fields necessary to express our full potential. And we can ignite that power and work with that intelligent presence that acts as principle in our lives and in all of life when we speak our word. And when we speak our word, we have to believe that it becomes a law unto where we point it. So, we don't have to waste any more time trying to find out the secret of success or the key to happiness. We have it already, holding to truth. So if you turn your attention inward and just ask yourself, is there some place in your life that you're stuck, where the seeming appearances of those things outside of you have robbed you of your good, or maybe robbed someone else of their good that you're familiar with? And remembering that our thought is the most powerful tool that we have to work with. It's the creative agency within us. It's what created the mess, and it's what can uncreate it. And so find that area of your life. We all have them. It's okay. And then allow these words of Ernest Holmes to be your prayer to lift you up and out of that. I let that divine within me, using whatever method it may, restore me to perfect health, perfect happiness, perfect harmony. I am one with Spirit. Spirit is all that I am. It's my whole being. And this divine wisdom is in my thought. It's causing me to act and move intelligently, to make right choices, and to follow right pursuits. Therefore, the road is made straight before me. Every obstacle is removed, and I am led to the absolute, the certain goal of good, of accomplishment, of success.